Hello, everyone. This week we are going to be reviewing an essential skill in writing, incorporating quotes. This is something we've practiced before, and you should be familiar with the I.C.E acronym. I'm not going to make you watch the Vanilla Ice video. You can do that on your own time, but let's review real quick what is I.C.E. I.C.E is an acronym. It stands for Introduce the Quote, Cite the Quote, and Explain the Quote. Here's an example, okay? This is an example where they were able to ice a quote and make one complete sentence. It says, although not many people know it, Helen Keller joined the Socialist Party of Massachusetts in 1909, low in 20, and remained a socialist until the end of her life. In green, you'll see where they are introducing the quote. Then what's not highlighted is the quote. In yellow, you'll see the citation, and in red, you'll see an explanation. So let's talk about why I want you to use I.C.E. Specifically, why should you introduce a quote, okay? If you can avoid it, never start a sentence with a quote. Introducing a quote helps the reader know that a quote is coming while maintaining the flow of the sentence or the paragraph, and it can also give background about the quote or restate the question being asked. Recently, you learned the race strategy for restating your answers or restating a question in your answer. That is a great way to introduce a quote to restate the question. Next, let's talk about why you should cite a quote. It gives the author's last name and the page number, so if somebody wants to look up that information, they can. It prevents you from plagiarizing because you're citing appropriately. It gives credit to the person who came up with the idea, and it helps the reader know where they could find the quote if they wanted to read more about the topic. Now, in the past, in your citation, you've done author's last name and year. I'm going to push you to use complete and correct MLA format, so let's talk about that. In MLA format, an in-text citation includes the author's last name and the page number the quote was found on. The citation goes in parentheses. So for example, Franklin 3, okay? You'll notice that the period goes after that citation. If there is no page number, which is usually the case if you're reading an article online, then you'll just include the author's last name, so just Franklin. Now, if there's no author, maybe it's anonymous or you can't find author information, then you would just include a shortened version of the title. So if you're quoting from an article titled, What Does Waffle House Tell Us About How the World is Changing? You would simply cite Waffle House. And you'll notice that since it's a title, we have Waffle House in parentheses. Now, going back to I.C.E., why should you explain a quote? You could explain how the quote supports your answer. And this is helpful because I'm not a mind reader. So you need to tell me what connection you made between the quote and the answer. This is a great way for you to show me how smart you are. You can also explain what the quote means or what it is saying, okay? Paraphrase or elaborate on that. Some tips for using I.C.E. 1, use the question to write your introduction. This is the same as that race strategy. 2, only use the part of the quote that you need. I would suggest 4 to 10 words maximum, okay? There's some exceptions to that, but in general, you should really just look at what part of the quote you need to make your point. Remember, with I.C.E., you want to use transition words like because, so, and, which to make your sentence sound like it was written by one person. It should be cohesive and clear. Let's look at another example. Say you have the question, when does Helmuth prove that he is courageous? And an answer. Helmuth proves that he is courageous when he says, I take full responsibility, Bartoletti 145, because he is refusing to give up his friends to the Gestapo. This is an example where someone was able to include all 3 parts of I.C.E., introduce, cite, and explain, in one complete sentence. Look at it and see if you can identify where the introduction, citation, and explanation is. I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, as you can see in green, we have the introduction. We have the quote. It's only 4 words. They chose those specific words as those are the ones that were necessary. In yellow, we have our citation, the author's last name, and a page number. And in red, we have an explanation. This is one complete sentence. It sounds like it was written by one person, which is the goal with I.C.E. Another example, say you have this question. Why did Pony and Dally sneak into the drive-in movie in chapter 2? You might recognize this from S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders. Here's an answer. Ponyboy and Dally sneak into the drive-in movies because Dally hated to do things the legal way, Hinton 20. Dally thought this would make him seem tough. Where do you see ICE in this answer? You'll notice that in this answer, the student has separated their answer into two different sentences. In the first sentence, they include the introduction in green, the quote, and then the citation in yellow. Their third sentence is the explanation. This is another way that's totally acceptable to ICE a quote. I'm not going to make you try one on your own because you're going to be doing that in practice today, but I do want you to look at these three examples and tell me which one is correctly punctuated. In number one, you will see that they have a period right here and then their citation. In number two, you'll see that they have their citation and continue into the sentence. And then in number three, you see that the citation is at the very end. Which one is correct? The correct answer is number two, because that is the one that they are icing in the proper order. We have, although not many people know it, as our introduction, we have our quote, we have our citation, and then we have our explanation. You'll notice that the citation just has the author's last name because there wasn't a page number in this situation, and so that's totally appropriate. In this example, I want you to take a look and see which one is correctly punctuated. In the first one, you'll see our citation G on 56. Second one, you'll see G on 56 is in parentheses. In the third one, you'll see G on 56 is treated as its own sentence. The correct answer is number two. You'll see just like humans have bones is our introduction. We have the quote, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words. That's all right. And then our citation right after a quote, and then which protects them from predators, which is our explanation. Last up, let's look at this one and tell me which one is correctly punctuated. You'll notice for this one, they were not able to find the author's last name. So instead, they're using the title of the article and the page number. The correct answer in this situation is number one. You'll notice that after the quote, they have their citation. I also love that they put their period after the citation because your sentence doesn't end until after you've cited. This has been a review of ICE. Hopefully you feel more confident and comfortable with your understanding of ICE. Good luck on the quiz and on the practice assignments this week.